Violence, drug use, and chaos has become so uncontrollable at some American high schools. Extra law enforcement has been brought in. But it's been so bad at one high school in Massachusetts, school officials have asked for help from the National Guard. And joining us this morning to discuss is Parents Defending Education President Nicole Neily. Good morning to you, Nicole. Great to see you. Happy Friday.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
So school officials at Brockton High School in Massachusetts say they need the National Guard to deal with all the out-of-control violence and drug use and their threats to staff. At what point, though, do you just shut down a school if you're so fearful you have to call in the National Guard? What did you make of this?
Isn't it truly astonishing? We hear from parents around the country on a near daily basis with their concerns about school safety. You know, in the post-George Floyd era, a lot of schools got rid of what they call school resource officers, citing that they wanted to break the school to prison pipeline. But in the years since, we have seen a lot of schools walk back that decision. Sadly, what a lot of schools have done is they've implemented something called restorative justice, where they actually don't discipline these offenders. And but the problem with that is that when these children are returned to the classroom with no penalties, they often prevent their peers from learning, disrupting the entire class. And so this is something that schools are failing to address, and everyone is suffering.
I will be curious to see if the National Guard troops actually do get called in and actually do go to that particular high school. Meantime, there have been some grave concerns of money flowing into some of America's public schools from the Chinese Communist Party and the influence this could have on our country's education system. I know there's been multiple ongoing investigations in several states. What are some of the threats or red flags that you've seen? And what should parents, teachers, even students, what do they need to be aware of?
Sure. A few weeks ago in a House Select Committee on China and hearing, one of the people who testified mentioned the threat of Chinese malware. And last summer, we released an investigation looking at 143 school districts across the country that have received resources from Chinese Communist Party linked entities. And so last week, we sent letters to the heads of 34 school systems around the country, the state superintendents, as well as DC, asking them to investigate whether these foreign actors also put malware on school systems. We have yet to hear back from anybody, but you know, if it's happening to our infrastructure, it might be happening to our schools as well.
Most notably, I want to mention Thomas Jefferson High School. That is in Northern Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C. That school received more than $1 million from entities linked to the CCP after agreeing to help a Beijing high school and essentially give them our premier STEM research. What implications does this have for our national security, and how should state leaders be responding to this?
It's truly astonishing that a state school, Thomas Jefferson High School, which is a public high school, essentially their fundraising arm gave this IP away that had been developed over many years, floor plans, lesson plans. There's now a chain of schools over there called the Thomas Schools that brags about that. We have raised this and flagged this for the Secretary of Education of Virginia, who really doesn't seem to find this concerning. And so the fact that they're building off of our blood, sweat, and tears is something that more states really should be taking seriously.
Especially at a time when we're so worried about cybersecurity. We are now giving them, as you just mentioned, IP. We're giving it away at this point. President's Defending Education, President Nicole Neily, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.